The 1990s saw a rise in the first-person shooter genre back when they were called Doom clones, and while you technically could apply it to most games, I don't feel it was all that fair an assumption on all of them, and such was definitely the case for Star Wars Dark Forces, which of course was the first ever FPS set in the Star Wars saga. The story of the game focuses on then newcomer to the Star Wars saga, Kyle Katarn, a former Imperial officer who left the Empire to work as a mercenary for the Rebel Alliance. After being tasked with finding the Death Star plans and Luke Skywalker destroying the superweapon soon after, the Empire dispatches its new threat, the Dark Trooper, leaving Mon Mothma to call for Katarn once again on the condition that Kyle works with his longtime partner, Jan Ors. Unlike Doom, where the story was super simple and an excuse to send a soldier into hell itself, or Duke Nukem 3D where aliens invade and hold attractive women hostage, Dark Forces has a bit more of a complex plot, at least by comparison, in that you see not only Katarn interact with various characters like his partner Jan, Mon Mothma, Jabba the Hutt, you'll also see Darth Vader plotting with his Imperial officers, and it's a decent enough story to get you through the game at that, so no complaints here. The game, as said before, is an FPS set in the Star Wars saga, and of course, there are many weapons to play around with. Some are very common to the saga, like the E11 blaster rifle used by stormtroopers and thermal detonators, but LucasArts also got creative and made some new weapons like Katarn's signature Briar blaster pistol. Others include a Packard mortar launcher, an Imperial repeater, the Stalker concussion rifle, even the assault cannon used by the Dark Troopers, and a couple others. Although in the 90s, most early first-person shooters at the time was a traverse through a maze, find keys, and shoot enemies until you get through the end sort of game. While Dark Forces has quite a bit of those missions, it also has one of the earliest examples of having more objectives prior to the release of GoldenEye, which is shown by even the first mission of the game in where you have to acquire the Death Star plans for the Rebel Alliance before going back to your ship. Though unlike, say, Doom and Duke 3D, where you go to the end of the mission and it will instantly take you to the next mission after the score roundup, the game asks you to hit the escape button once you complete the mission, which is slightly off-putting at first, but you get used to it and hardly notice. Visually, and it seems odd given the era of 3D graphics we are in now, the sprite-based visuals of LucasArts' own Jedi engine kind of hold up. Sadly, it's not a sort of remaster like, say, the two Duke remasters like Megaton and 20th Anniversary World Tour as it is the DOS original, but you can still get the feel of the original Star Wars movies. Even the cutscenes, which show their age granted with their image quality and animation, still don't exactly take you out of the story as the art around them is well drawn. In fact, not including the graphics, the Jedi engine allowed for more actions you couldn't even do in Doom, like look up and down, crouching, and jumping. In the sound department, you have mostly new tracks that merge well with new variations of the classic John Williams soundtrack. Mileage may vary on what version of music you would listen to, as my version on Steam uses Sound Blaster, which can get pretty grating over time depending on the track, but that's just really me. Otherwise, voices and even stock Star Wars sound of the weapons sound great. Now, what doesn't hold up well are some of the controls. When you move around and shoot, it works as fine as any other FPS, but when you have to look up and down, I had to use the keys on the numeric pad, which can be cumbersome if you need to do it during high action moments. But thankfully, you don't need to do it often. That said, modern gamers who play FPS with a mouse could be thrown off, given this is one of the earlier first-person shooters to allow looking in a higher or lower angle. Hey guys, NintyFan1991 here, aka NintendoBoy17, with yet another extension of an old review of mine. And yes, it's for a Star Wars game again. I swear I don't reserve these for the license, especially when my first extended review was for BloodRayne 2. But anyway, as of 2024, a remaster of Star Wars Dark Forces was developed by Night Dive Studio, and knowing what a sucker I am for classic Star Wars games, I had to buy it. Yes, at the $30 price tag. But anyway, how does this remaster fare? Well, a few things. 1. The modernized controls. Keep in mind, I'm not playing on PC this time, but on Switch. And we have the ability to look up and down a little more naturally like in later shooters. So we can use dual analog control, or if you really want to, motion controls. And it flows very well.
Plus, on the consoles at least, the controls are simplified for other things like using gadgets such as the headlights, goggles, or whatever else you pick up. The second one is the extra content. Night Dive Studios were able to provide all sorts of behind-the-scenes documents as well as artwork from LucasArts for us to view. And in addition to that, a lost demo level, which is only there for show, no objectives, but they are damn fine additions. The third and final thing to mention are the visual and audio improvements. Night Dive Studios reworked and improved the visuals with their Kex engine, and it looks so crisp and clear in both gameplay and cutscenes. And according to them, they didn't use any AI, and thank the force for that. Though we also have a choice to see it in the classic visuals if we want to. There is also a choice in how we want to hear the music, and it's between OPL3 and the general MIDI, which is found in the initial Steam release of the original version. OPL3 sounds a hell of a lot better than the kind of grating MIDI sound, but I noticed there was an audio glitch where there is less of the music. It didn't happen a lot in my playthrough, but you will notice when it happens. Though I admit, I'm kinda shocked Night Dive Studio didn't find a way to add the PlayStation 1 version of the soundtrack. I know that wasn't a well-received port, and seeing it in action on YouTube, good God, I see why with that horrible frame rate. The music in that one is stellar. And the fact that they couldn't add it in when Night Dive is the same studio that helped Bethesda revisit their inherited N64 history with id, Doom, and Quake is a bit of a surprise to me. But either way, Night Dive Studios still delivers with their remaster of not only one of my favorite Star Wars games, one of my favorite shooters of the 90s, with a lot of improvements that make it worth buying in my opinion. Shooting Imperial scum never felt so good.